Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Wednesday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. Down below, make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Good evening, Keveron. Glad to have you along. As always, thank you for being a faithful supporter of the channel. Sorry that I'm holding my phone tonight, but my phone's getting old, it's getting fidgety, it's getting sensitive, and my phone holder is getting old and fidgety and sensitive. So I said, oh well, tonight I'll just hold the phone. But it is a Wednesday, so of course it's time for a top 10 countdown. And this week's top 10 countdown is my personal opinion. But I figured since the first playoff poll of the 2025 college football season will come out here in a couple of weeks, I might as well go ahead and give you my opinion of who I think the top 10 teams are and in what order I would put them in. Because one thing's for sure, gone are the days of college football. They're gone, never coming back. Either you can, get on board with the changes and realize that these are permanent, or, stop watching because we're not going back to the old days. Most of the rivalries are gone, and the ones that aren't gone are going to be gone in 4 or 5 years. Gone are the days of the players who, grow up fans of a certain team and go there because, it's been a lifelong dream of theirs. Those days are gone. Now it's all about the money, just like the NFL. And that's just the facts. That's the way it is. But one thing about it, because of the NIL changes, it's made it to where no team has the depth they would normally have, because you can't pay 85 players every year millions of dollars. You just can't do it. So where it used to be, especially the top tier programs, your backups were just as good as your starters. They just couldn't start because only so many guys can start. Now it's not like that. You might have the best starting lineup in the country, but if you lose one or two of your starters, you're in trouble. So the one thing it has done is it's made the competition so much better, and it's made the gap between the worst team to the best team a lot closer. So it is hard now to see who the better teams are, who the best team is, because it can change on a weekly basis. A team might look like the best team in the country one week, and they might be lucky to be the 50th best team the next week. So this is my opinion of the top 10 teams. Number 10, Georgia Tech. Number 9, Georgia. Number 8, LSU. Number 7, Alabama. And number 6, Ole Miss. Georgia Tech, Georgia, LSU, Alabama, and Ole Miss. The top 5 kicks off with Texas A&M. Then we have Texas Tech. Number 3, Indiana. Number 2, Ohio State. And number 1, Miami. Now, the reason why those are my 3 top teams, and you can put them in any order you would like. You could tell me Ohio State's 1, you could tell me Indiana's 1, and I'm okay with it. But I think the reason why I have them at the top, whatever order you want to put them in, is because even though there are questions about every team, and there are things about every team you look at and you say, that's not very good, that's not very good, I think Indiana, Ohio State, and Miami have the fewest amount of questions. So to me, if every team has question marks and every team has things you don't like, you go with the teams that have, for one, looked the best on the field, but for two, have the fewest question marks. And I mentioned this, on the channel here a few weeks ago, when I was talking about the AP poll. You could look at just about every single team and find issues. There is no clear cut number one team. There is no clear cut national champion, because to me, Miami right now is the best team in the country, and I'll say they're better this year than they were last year. They're better this year than they were 2 years ago, but they were still really good last year. And then come around last week of October, first week of November, they fell apart. Is that going to happen again this year? No idea. Hey there, Vale. Glad to have you here. And hey there, Drop. Glad to have you here. If it's y'all's first time being here, whatever made you stop by the channel tonight, thank you for being here. Feel free to give the video a like, a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Tonight, I'm doing a top 10 countdown about college football, but my top 10 countdowns can be about sports. Sometimes they're wrestling, and then sometimes they're from the entertainment world, whether it's movies, music, cars. I've did some about restaurants, vacation spots, holidays. Hey there, Max. Glad to have you here. I think the reason, Max, that the Gamecocks aren't ranked well, for one, is because they're not very good. For two, it's because their best player by far is Lenore Sellers, and he has regressed from last year. I don't think it's his fault. For some stupid reason, Shane Beamer decided to give Mike Shula the OC job, even though nobody in America likes Mike Shula. Beamer decided to hire him, and he has tried to turn Lenore Sellers into a drop-back passing quarterback, and for one, Lenore Sellers is not that. And for two, even if he was, South Carolina has 0 wide receivers. So why you want to take a quarterback who is not a drop-back passing quarterback and turn him into one with no wide receivers makes 0 sense to me. So before the season started, I said they were a 6 or 7 win team. I was wrong. They're not getting there. And the reason why I had them there is because, they're not Ohio State. They're not Georgia. They're not Alabama. They're not Penn State. They're not one of the high-profile programs. And they lost their best 8 players on defense from last year's team. If you're South Carolina, you don't lose all 8 of your best defensive players and then come back the next year and not have it affect you. It's going to affect you. So that's why I had them losing 2 or 3 more games than last year, because I knew their defense takes a step back, and it does. And I knew that hiring Mike Shula was a bad idea, but I didn't realize it was going to be this bad of an idea. I thought they could still get to 500. Now I'll be shocked if they get to 500. I don't think they win any of their next 4 games. If they win one of the next 4, it better be Saturday. I think Saturday is their best chance to win any of the next 4. So if they don't win Saturday, they might be looking at 3-7 heading into the final 2 games of the season. But I knew they'd go backwards, but I didn't realize they'd go this backwards. I knew Mike Shula was terrible, but I had no idea Shula was going to come in there and try to make Lenore Sellers into a drop-back passing quarterback, because he is not that. Hey there, Lip Stomper. Glad to have you here. But I think the top 3 teams have the fewest question marks, and that's why they're the best 3 teams. LSU, it's hard to not put them in the top 10 because it's mid-October and they're 5-1. Hey there, Grays. Glad to have you here. Hey there, Haywood. Glad to have you here. So you look at LSU's record, and you'd be a fool to not put a 5-1 team in the top 10. But then if you watch them play, they're not a top 10 team. You thought when they beat Clemson it was going to be a good win. Turns out it's not a very good win. And that's been their best win so far. And, Garrett Nussmeier looked like a Heisman quarterback last year. And this year, he's terrible. Now, the rumors are he's hurt. Of course, Brian Kelly says that's not true. But if he is hurt, Brian Kelly's not going to come out and say, oh, yeah, my quarterback's hurt. So Brian Kelly saying it's not true does nothing to make you believe it. But if he's not hurt, why does he suck so bad after he was so good last year? The first one or two games you thought, okay, well, he'll get better as years went on. And it's midway point of the season now, and he's not playing any better at all. And Grays, thank you for asking that question, but you can stop asking because I don't have Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, any of that stuff. So if you wanted to donate, you wouldn't be able to. Max, that was the issue with Shane Beamer. And, Max, you should have been here from day one. You know that I'm not a believer in Shane Beamer. I said the day he got hired, it was a dumb idea. To me, he's a little better than Will Muschamp, but not much. And the reason why I say that is because you coached under your dad for a long time, and your dad retires, and he could have easily gone to the Hokies and said, hey, make my son the new head coach. But the fact that your dad overlooked you and didn't want to give you a head coaching job tells me you suck, because we all know that our parents are going to defend us more than anybody else would or ever will. So for your own dad to overlook you and not want to give you a chance tells me that your own dad knows you suck. So the day that the Gamecocks hired him, I said, that's a terrible idea. And I still think it's a terrible idea. He's pretty much a 500 coach. That's what he is. That's what Will Muschamp was. He might be a little better than Muschamp, but not by much. But the fact that he gave Mike Shula that job tells you that Beamer's not a very smart man, because Mike Shula has never been successful at calling plays. Never. He's a good quarterback coach. He's a great recruiter. He can do anything you ask that man to do except call plays. And being that he's failed everywhere he's gone calling plays, I have no idea why Beamer would look and say, you know what? He's sucked everywhere he's gone, but he'll do good now. The fact that he was there and nobody came calling, nobody wanted him, should have told Shane Beamer, this guy sucks. And for whatever reason, it didn't. But that's my opinion of who the top 10 teams are, only because the top three is the top three, because I feel like they have fewer questions marks than anybody else. So, my big question is still about Ole Miss, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, is that every year Ole Miss has one or two games that they lose that they have no business losing. And if you look at this past weekend, they played Washington State, who is absolutely terrible. That team is awful. And you come out of there with a 3-point win, and it's not like you turned the ball over 4 or 5 times. You didn't. Washington State just slowed down your offense and had long, consuming drives on offense. But time of possession was about even. Amount of plays was about even. Yardage was about even. If you play like that against Washington State, then I have a feeling that it's going to be the same old Ole Miss. They're going to have one or two games this year where they're just going to come out and lay an egg. But as of right now, they're still undefeated, so you have to put them up there. Hey there, Eddie. Glad to have you here. It's been a while since you've been here in the comment section, so glad to have you back. Max, they are bad, but I've said from the LSU game on that I think the LSU game pretty much determined Clemson's season, because I feel like most of the coaching staff and most of the players thought they had a chance to go undefeated. And I feel like when they lost to LSU, they were like, oh, well, that wasn't our season. We can't go undefeated. We can't beat LSU. And now we're done. And I think had they beat LSU, I think this season would be totally different. The one good thing is Dabo is known for being a supreme motivator. Now, I don't think Clemson's going to win out because they're not good enough, but I also don't think they're going to keep playing as bad as they played early in the season, and they're going to finish 4-8. They're not going to be that bad. They will play hard, and they will play hard, and they will play hard, and I think they'll still get to 6 wins somehow, some way. But if they get much more than 7, I'll be shocked. But Max, the funny thing about this year's team is, Dabo's always been a supreme motivator, so it's nothing Dabo's done because Dabo's always been known for being a great motivator. But you watch this year's team, and they just look disinterested. They look like they don't care, and it's not nothing Dabo is doing because Dabo's the opposite of that. Dabo's always motivating, always wanting to play, always being competitive. But this year's team just ain't competitive. They just don't care. And you can't make people care. No, Eddie, I don't. I think Dabo should stay, and I think Dabo will stay. I think Dabo will stay at Clemson as long as he wants to stay at Clemson. They're never firing him. The only way he ever leaves is if he leaves on his own, and I don't think he will. But they had 6 players when the season started that were projected NFL first round draft picks. Now, a couple of them, like Cade Klubnik, I've never seen the talent in Cade Klubnik. Still never seen it. What everybody else sees, I have no idea because I've watched the guy for 3 years and I thought he sucked from day one. But he was one of the 6 guys that were projected NFL first round draft picks. And you would think, even if the rest of the team doesn't care, those 6 guys would still play hard to keep their projections so high. And they haven't. So even the guys that are hurting themselves long term in the NFL draft just don't care. And I don't know what the issue is because almost all the coaching staff was there last year and you were fine. And almost all the players you have were there last year and you were fine. So you can't tell me that last year's players forgot how to play because that's not true. And you can't tell me that last year's coaches forgot how to coach because that's not true. But why is it that almost the same coaching staff and same team from last year suck so bad this year? Nobody knows. And that's the reason why Dabo can't fix it because you can't fix a problem until you can point the finger and find out what the issue is. But it's not the talent because you had these guys last year. It's not the coaches because you had these coaches last year. So what is it? That's the underlying issue that nobody knows. Well, let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. I just downloaded the Titanic soundtrack. It's sinking right now. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.